will be discussing the political and humanitarian crisis occurring in the country of Venezuela.
Followed by controversial designs surrounding fashion brands like Gucci and Burberry and why they're causing such an uproar.
And finally, we're bringing you the latest CSUF and local news. All this and more on today's episode of The Report.
And welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info. I'm Leslie Duarte.
I'm Ryan Matthey.
And I'm Ashling Insulin.
Before we get started with our first hot topic, we'd like to invite you to be a part of the discussion on this semester season. Click on the link in the caption of any of our report episodes to fill out a secure Google form with your opinion on any controversial issue that we've talked about now or in the past, as many of these issues are evolving and ranging from gun control, abortion, climate change, and the state of politics. All we ask is to please keep it civil.
Trucks burned, hundreds injured, and 4 people dead along the Venezuelan border. The crisis in Venezuela escalated over the weekend. This was after the country's president, Nicolas Maduro, blocked humanitarian aid. Maduro removed a team of European Union officials from Venezuela in response, causing the dispute of bringing aid to the country to further escalation. The citizens are in need of aid. The growing food shortage has only gotten worse since Maduro took office. Here's CNN correspondent John Lornick with more on the story.
Hundreds injured from clashes along the Venezuelan border this weekend.
It's the blood of the Venezuela people. It's the blood of the freedom.
Tensions escalated after food and supplies were stopped from entering the country. Some of the trucks were burned. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying on the order of President Nicolas Maduro. The request for the aid came from Venezuela's opposition leader, Juan Guaido.
He said, please bring food to my people. Please bring medicine to the sick who are here. That's what we have been working on these past few weeks.
Control of Venezuela is in dispute between self-declared interim President Guaido and Maduro. But most countries, including the U.S., see Guaido as the legitimate president. Guaido is meeting with Vice President Mike Pence Monday in Colombia, where a senior administration official says Pence is expected to voice resolute support for Guaido. Maduro, meanwhile, is standing firm, saying if the U.S. dares to attack, they will be received by the strength of the Venezuelan armed forces.
I don't believe at this point that military force is required, but there's no question that what has happened in Venezuela presents issues of human rights abuses and abuses of government, and there have been incredible violence.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Well, it's just seen on that video, we have fires, we got crazy things going on looking in Venezuela, and begs the question, do we really think America should be invading to help in those efforts?
Well, I have to disagree. Okay. You know, in the past, America has gotten involved in Latin American affairs, and it hasn't gone well. So I think we should stay away, but it is important to address this as a humanitarian crisis because people are suffering. They don't have anything to eat. Inflation is over 1,000,000%, and the president there just, you know, he seems to be some crazy guy that basically calls everything false, that Venezuelan people are fine and that he is the best president ever. And it's just so wrong. But and then again, how should the United States get involved?
How would they help, right?
How?
And that's the thing is, too, if we do invade, like, they definitely would be able to take down Maduro and his whole regime, but then we would be in charge of fixing it afterwards. Like, we caused all this damage, caused all this trauma, and now we're going to be in charge of fixing it with all the other things that we have currently happening in our country, and especially with the president in office. I don't really feel like he would be able to prioritize the rehabilitation efforts in Venezuela.
Well, it's also hard because this man nominated himself as president. He made himself president, and you would think that somebody who would put themselves in a position like that you would have the best interest of the people that you're governing. And here you have all these people who are crying for help and are rioting in the streets, and clearly this is not the best interest of your people. And our own president even said, their days of socialism are limited. So, okay, where are you going to step in as a president and provide aid, but still have the same views as this man who's causing all these issues, Where is the line?
So there are two presidents claiming to be in Venezuela. First is Maduro. He basically had corrupt elections and got himself there. That is the belief. There's actual proof in that, but we allegedly say that. And then there's a second guy who stepped in and said, because those elections were corrupt, I'm not president, and that's who the United States is supporting. But then again, who is this second guy stepping up to say he's the president? I think Maduro is wrong for what he's doing to the Venezuelan people. And this guy is also wrong because you can't just step up and claim to be the president of a country.
How is he allowed to do that? I don't understand.
It's they're both claiming that under the Constitution of Venezuela, they have the right to do that. I think it's a really messed up space or time in Venezuela, and as the United States and surrounding countries, we need to step in as a humanitarian aid.
I agree. Well, it is official. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders announced that he is running for president again. He joins 11 more Democratic candidates like Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and California Senator Kamala Harris. During the 2016 election, Sanders gained a massive following among young voters, but lost the nomination to Hillary Clinton. The progressive policies Sanders offered up during his 2016 campaign, like Medicare for All and a $15 minimum wage, are now common among many Democratic candidates. This time around, Sanders is seen as a front runner, and his campaign raised $6 million in the first 24 hours of his announcement.
Moving on to local news. Nearly a decade ago, Congress approved over $900 million to be awarded to California to complete a high-speed rail project. But over the years, the project ran into some complications, and the Trump administration announced that it plans to cancel the funding altogether. Trump is demanding for the state to return $2.5 billion that was spent. Despite what President Trump has said, Governor Newsom explained that he still plans on completing this railway project. Newsom even took to Twitter after Trump's announcement, saying, quote, "This is California's money allocated by Congress for this project. We're not giving it back," end quote.
In an effort to cut back on air pollution caused by greenhouse gases and traffic, a California senator introduced a bill aiming to eliminate the speed limit on lanes of Interstate 5 and State Route 99. The bill proposes 2 additional lanes going northbound and southbound to be constructed with no speed limits being enforced. With more on the story, here's CNN reporter Macy Jenkins.
What do you do when you see this?
I put stuff in the GPS just to, see if there's a quicker route.
Another holiday bottleneck.
Freeways are congested, it's just a havoc.
And this President's Day lived up to its bad reputation with bumper-to-bumper traffic on the roads.
It's like a California Groundhog Day, just sitting in traffic with my car idling. But Senator John Murlock says you're just emitting greenhouse gases, and that's bad for the environment. So what's the solution? Well, his bill said add 2 new lanes on the highway with no speed limits.
Very interesting.
But just how would that work?
You're burning the fuel efficiently, as opposed to just sitting in slow traffic waiting for one truck to pass another truck for 20 minutes.
Orange County Senator John Morlock wants to see 2 lanes on each side of both I-5 and Highway 99, from Bakersfield to Stockton, and no 65-mile-per-hour limit would apply.
If you look at what's happening in Germany, the freeway accidents on the Autobahn are a lot less than what's happening on our roads.
And he says this plan is more realistic than a high-speed rail still years away from being built.
So why don't we provide people with vehicles the opportunity just to drive at 100 miles an hour and get to San Francisco in a shorter period of time than the train would?
First thought, what do you think?
How much is that going to cost to do?
That seems like it's a little too sweet to be real.
Morlock doesn't have a price tag just yet.
We've already paid for the right of way. We don't have to buy that. So now it's just how much per mile is the concrete going to cost.
For now, it seems he needs to get drivers revved up about the idea.
Yeah, no, too much for Californians to be able to handle.
Guys, I want to like this. I think it should be a good idea. But that's so scary. I don't know about that. Just seeing the amount of speed that people can go on the freeway. I don't like that. That seems just accident waiting to happen.
I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I'm the first person to say that I am a fast driver. Okay, it's fine. But when I'm driving down the 57 and I see people going faster than I'm going, weaving in and out of traffic, I'm like, whoa. So just giving that possibility of having just one lane go without a speed limit, what if something, okay, a lot of accidents are caused because people are going, right? Somebody merges into them, so they swerve into the next lane, right? Mm-hmm. So what if you have to swerve into that non-speed limit lane and somebody's coming 120 right behind you and there's an accident. Like, it's just like small possibilities like that, but I think it also creates like just more issues at all, like just the fear of that lane, you know, I don't know. That I don't really,
absolutely.
I don't like the idea.
No, I'm also scared of it. I'd like to talk to the experts about this, whoever's in charge of, I don't know, determining at what speed is appropriate and safe. But I'm scared of it. However, I can see that happening on like the route to Vegas or somewhere where it's like there's no cars on there. Like, let's be honest. Everybody likes to go a little fast on the way to Vegas.
Yeah.
So I can see that where there's no cars, but on the 5, what part of the 5? Oh my gosh, the 5 is crazy. The 5 goes into LA.
The 5 that I know, if we got no speed limit on like my 5, that's super scary. And there are going to be accidents on the hour, every hour. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it could have been planned. Maybe it was not on the freeway itself. Maybe putting it onto a separate roadway system. But that seems like a lot more work. And they already have everything going on with the speed train too. So I'm not really sure how like applicable this could really be.
Yeah, and like you said, adding it onto the 5 that we know down here, I think it's just going to be another lane for traffic.
Yeah.
If we're being realistic.
Absolutely.
So we'll see how that goes.
We'll see.
Fashion brands invaded Europe with presentations of their work in London, Milan, and Paris fashion weeks. But it wasn't the designer outfits that took the spotlight. Controversy hit brands like Gucci and Burberry, who were blamed to be incorporating insensitive pieces into their fashion. For instance, Gucci was facing accusations of blackface and insensitivity towards a history of lynching and relations to suicide for Burberry. The sweater that Gucci featured supported a cutout around the mouth area that emphasizes cartoonish red lips at the Milan Fashion Week. Gucci has made an effort to address and resolve the problem by announcing that they will be expanding diversity within the company in a long-term plan to build cultural awareness. The following week, Burberry featured a hoodie known as the suicide hoodie. The rope strings that are actually typically used to tighten the hood of the sweater resembled a rope historically known for lynching as well as suicide. Burberry issued an apology for the insensitive clothing piece and pulled it from their line. So, how do we even go about talking about this? Like, it is 2019, okay? You really need to think about the things that you're putting out. You guys just saw the little Gucci face piece. Yeah. That, hello. Like, that, you have seen blackface. You studied it in your American Studies class. It's, like, well-known piece of history. That is blatantly what they were going for.
Absolutely. And I hate that they're like, after all of this controversy has happened, they're like, okay, now we'll be a little more inclusive in our hiring process. Now we'll accept, fashion designers of color and that are non-white. But it's like, you should have been doing this for years already, especially if you are marketing to the general public, which is everybody. That includes a multitude of races. You need to have people on your, agenda in your cast that are going to be putting forward work that is representative of everybody and like as limited in the terms of offending people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this just is a global problem. There's a lot of racism, segregation, discrimination in the fashion industry and in every industry. But again, we talked about Adidas last week. Why aren't they hiring people of color or minorities? To somebody in the executive board would have been like, what are you doing? This is completely racist.
Like, who is the board of people that are sitting in there and they show all their pieces and they're like, that's it. That's what we're putting on the runway. This is so not going to be controversial. Like,
and I get like trying to be edgy, like the whole noose thing. Like I get it. Like death, ooh, that's very edgy. Like, but that's still, there's so much history behind that too that they probably should have like taken into account beforehand. And there's other ways of being edgy. Like throw some metallics in there. Throw like, I don't know, a spike or two on the shoulder. Don't put some historically offensive content into it.
And you know what bothers me more than these brands putting out this fashion statements is that for a while people are really offended and they're like, oh, we start burning things or we start not buying the things, but then they go right back to forgiving them and buying their products, So that kind of bothers me also, how we can forget exactly. How we can forget so easily. But let's talk about the Academy Awards. The Academy Awards took place this last weekend and featured diversity across the winners and categories. It has been an upgrade from the notorious hashtag #OscarsSoWhite that labeled the 2015 show. Another change the Oscar faced was continuing the show without a host. Luckily for the Oscars, no host meant more room for performances. And as they say in entertainment, the show must go on. We pass it on to CNN News correspondent Tajid Shang, who has the full recap and details on the show.
Well, the 91st Academy Awards honored a lot of diverse winners this time. There were a couple of major upsets as well. Green Book taking Best Picture over Roma, and Olivia Colman taking Best Actress over Glenn Close. What was not a surprise, however, was Lady Gaga winning for Best Original Song. For an awards show that honors the best in filmmaking.
And the Oscar goes to...
Perhaps the most talked about moment was during a performance for Best Original Song. Performing Shallow from their movie A Star is Born, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper oozed chemistry. The internet went wild for the obvious connection between the two, who led their film to top Oscar nominations. Lady Gaga would later accept the win in the Original Song category.
Bradley, there is not a single person on the planet that could have sang this song with me but you.
Also taking the stage Sunday night, Jennifer Hudson, Gillian Welch, and David Rawlings, and the legendary Bette Midler. The song All the Stars from Black Panther was absent from the stage. Variety reported logistics and timing were the reason. And it was only fitting that the band behind one of the biggest movies of the year opened the night in place of the usual host's monologue. Queen kicked things off with Adam Lambert stepping into Freddie Mercury's shoes. A lot of these musical numbers and the speeches were woven together pretty seamlessly, considering there was no host for the first time in about 30 years. The Academy tapped some popular comedians to present many of the awards. In Hollywood, Natasha Chen, back to you.
Jussie Smollett has rocked headlines this last month for allegedly staging a homophobic attack. Smollett was arrested, charged with filing a false police report, and has been written off by the Fox show Empire. Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson has spoken out on the case and has mentioned how this can be harmful to the city. Johnson acknowledged that the department has a history with racism and excessive force. Even though the attack was a hoax, political figures like Kamala Harris are urging the public to be aware of the real hate crimes in America. The Southern Poverty Law Center explains that the rise is due to a, quote, toxic combination of a political polarization, anti-immigration sentiment, and technologies that help spread propaganda online, end quote.
Speaking of online hate, February 22nd marked wildlife conservationist and TV personality Steve Irwin's 57th birthday. To commemorate his birthday, Google changed their logo to honor him. The logo featured Irwin searching for crocodiles and feeding animals at the Australia Zoo. However, people for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, criticized Irwin on Twitter, saying he was killed while harassing a stingray and that his actions were, quote, not on target with his supposed message of protecting wildlife, end quote. Fans defended the crocodile hunter by saying that he helped educate millions about rare animals. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I grew up on Steve Irwin. I would watch his show on Animal Planet, and he taught me a lot about animals, and I think his message was educational.
Absolutely, yeah. He was a childhood hero for sure. Everything I know about crocodiles is because of him. And in fact, if you're jumping on a crocodile, you know, you better have some respect for that person. You know, he's jumping on crocodile backs, taping them up, giving them vaccines, doing all this stuff. Like, put some respect on his name, please.
I think we're like, all three of us are like a little biased in this because it's literally, it's like I had Zabumafu, I had Steve Irwin. It was like anything else, I did not hear anything from them. So all of my animal like facts and like the passion that I got and like the interest I got for animals were because of, a lot of it because of Steve Irwin himself. And so I get their message. I understand what PETA's trying to do. I totally agree in the ethical treatment of animals and, you know, not skinning them, not testing them for makeup products. Like, I totally get it. But the way that they're going about it and the way that they're trying to convey their message is, it comes off offensive. And especially if you're doing it to such like a world-renowned star as Steve Irwin, you're not going to get that many supporters like they have seen very obviously.
And this is not the first time that they've done something as disrespectful as this. So I'm honestly shocked that they thought, we're going to write this. This is a great idea. This is going to go over really well. Like you said, he is very respected, and he's They need to put respect on his name. Like, he is not here to defend himself, okay? Like, this is just so wrong. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I understand. And, well, I guess we'll see the next great thing that PETA has in store for us, right? Well, everybody, that is the time that we have for today on The Report. Have a great week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Ryan Matthey.
I'm Leslie Duarte.
And I'm Ashling Insulin. Stay fresh, Fullerton.